Hey guys, my name is Ismas. Welcome to another Blender 2.8 tutorial. This time you're going to be looking at how to texture a boat in Blender 2.8, and this is the boat we're going to texture. We made in part 1, that's already up on my YouTube channel. We did the modeling part, and now we're going to be looking at the texturing. Yeah, so this is what we're going to be doing. Don't worry about the nodes here. It's just a clickbait kind of thing. To get people excited about the tutorial, but it's nothing to worry about. It's nothing that complicated. Some of the nodes I don't think I even used. I just forgot to remove them, but it's not that complicated. Yeah, so and you really have to love Blender 2.8 because this is in real time. It's playing back in real time. I don't have to render anything, and it has depth of field. If you have rendered the Blender 2.0, if you have rendered with cycles before, it would take you a few hours to render something with ambient occlusion, and I forgot even to turn on motion blur, because you also have that feature. If you want it, you can turn on motion blur, and if you try to do this to render this using cycles, it would take you a few hours. And if your PC is shitty like mine, it would take you even a day or two. So yeah, but enough of that. Let's go to the texturing. So yeah, for the animation, maybe if I can talk about that for a second. There is nothing much that I animated here. It's just the camera that is animated. You can see I just gave it a simple shake and forward motion to get that. Quite simple. Maybe I'll do a quick tutorial next time about how to make such animations. Anyway, and also maybe this fast blur effect, maybe I'll show you that maybe also in that tutorial that I will make when I'm showing you how to make the animation. So let's go into the texturing. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy everything. Let me first stop the animation. I'll just copy everything, and then paste that in a new project. So this is what we have. We still have the animation, I guess. No, we don't. I didn't copy the cameras, I think. Okay, so I'll save this. It still has the textures and everything, but let's remove them because we want to start from scratch. So I will just remove that material and select everything, then select this, and then link materials so that they all don't have a material. So yeah, let's look at how I did the texturing. So the first thing you have to do is UV unwrap the object you want to texture, and yeah, let's first isolate this from everything else. So you can hit / on your numpad to isolate the selected object, and this is what we have. I think it's called the chassis or something. So yeah, every piece you see here is a separate object. Maybe not all of them, but most of them are modeled as separate objects. You can look at the tutorial and you'll see how I made those. So I don't want to add let's just add seams and UV unwrap them directly like that. I was going to just do a smart UV projection. This will give you a quick UV projection, but it's not the best UV you can get, so that's why I'm very hesitant to use it. But anyway, let's select this one face here and do Shift G and select by let's say normal, then increase the threshold and see what we get. It's not the selection I want. Let's just mark seams, but these white bevels are kind of getting in the way. I can't really see the seams if I mark them, so I'll just go into overlays and turn off bevel so that I don't see those blue highlights. So now we can mark seams for these. Because we need these to be UV unwrapped to give it proper textures. So Ctrl E, mark seam. I guess we can go to UV textures, maybe even add a new material and add an image, texture, image, a new, and set this to UV grid so that we can see how our UVs look. So right now everything is messy. Need to go back to UV texture, select everything and then unwrap. Make sure you have applied the rotation and scale, and then UV unwrap. See, everything is really messed up right now because our UVs are not well set. So we need to go in and add more seams. Make sure that this bevel is turned off. You know what? I'm tempted to just use smart UVs. Let me just use smart UVs because this will take me a lot of time. So UV, smart UV. This will just give you a quick UV. It won't really be that good, but for this kind of thing, it works. So you can also look at how it looks. See, that's how it looks. So let's start the texturing. Just find some textures. You can download free textures from cc0textures.com. It's a free resource where you can download textures, different textures, PBR textures. So just, and they're the same textures I'm using here, so you can get exactly what I'm using here if you want it. So just drag this. This is going to be our base color. Let's see. Then I'll add the displacement. Connect this to the displacement. Change the color space to non-color data. You can see the displacement is working, but I think it's too much, so I can add a convert math node and then change the operation to multiply and reduce the value to 0.1 to reduce the bumps. And I also think that the UVs are too big, so that's why you see the textures are too big, or the UVs are too small. That's why the textures are too big. So we can go to UV edit, go to textured mode here so that we can see the textures. Now if we scale this up maybe by 2, then the UVs, the texture is scaled down. So we can go to shading back. Think, yeah, that is good enough. And we can add the roughness. You can add the normal map if you want, but I found that sometimes when you add the displacement and the normal map, it doesn't render correctly for some reason, so I won't be adding that. And so this is what we have currently, but I think we need to have some bit of control over the reflection, so we can add a convert color ramp, and then you can preview this node by hitting Ctrl Shift and then left selecting the node you want to preview, so that we only preview that, and we can control the contrast of this map by bringing these closer. Remember, the black parts are the most reflective parts and the white parts are not reflective at all. So if we preview this, and the best way to preview this is by the best way to preview the reflection is by changing this into metallic and maybe we can remove these for now, and we can also remove the displacement for now. You can see everything is very shiny, but there are some rough reflections here and there and then, but now you can control this like this. So you see we have a few bits where everything is rough and some areas where everything is super reflective, but we don't want that much reflection, so we can change this, make it a bit lighter so that it's not too reflective, but we still maintain some kind of soft reflections there. So now we can bring back the color and displacement. Now don't forget to turn this back into non-metal. I also think that the color is a bit dark for me, so I'm going to reduce. You can change the color here, so you can either use a color RGB curves to control the different channels, so make this brighter maybe, and I think I like this better, so maybe even more brighter like that. Now we can go to the blue channel and drop that a bit so that it's more brown. Now let's see if we go to the green, what happens. Yeah, I think that's good enough. So if we look at the reference image, you can see that the inside has a different texture from the outside. So to create that, that is very easy. We just need a mask to tell Blender which parts are inside and which parts are outside. So for that, let's add a new image. Let's add a new image, texture, image texture, and new. I will call this mask. Now we can preview this, Control Shift and then click. Okay, so we created the mask, but we didn't. Let's just delete this. Shift A, texture, image texture, new. So we created the mask, but we forgot. We left the generate type to UV grid. We want it to be blank, so I'll call this mask outside. Click OK. Now we can preview this, and you can see it's a black mask. So we are going to paint over the areas that are supposed to be the outside, and the areas that are on the inside will remain black, and that's how Blender will know what parts are. And we will use that to mix the different textures. So let's go to texture paint. You can see right now it's just previewing a different texture we don't want. So let's first go to object mode and isolate this object using the / key on your numpad. And if the texture you want to paint on is not the one previewing here, you can just go, make sure you are in texture paint mode, and go up here. There is a new option where you can turn on, where you can select the texture you want to paint on. So just select that, and you can see what we have. So right now, if we try painting, you can see the problem is that we scaled up the UVs. So some of the UVs are outside the texture. So we would need to scale them back, but that would affect the texture we created here to scale down the textures in here. So what we can do is just go to the object data, click on this icon here, and under UVs, create a new UV map, and we can call this mask. Now make sure you have it selected here, and also in the shading, add Shift A and then add input UV map, and select the UV map you have just created, mask, and use that as the UV map for this. And so all the other textures we'll be using are the first UV map we had here. So let's go to texture, to UV editing. So we have two UVs. We have this and this. The difference is that we haven't done any UV unwrapping here, so we need to do that. So unwrap, smart UV unwrap. Make sure that it fits, everything fits in this texture area. So the first textures we created, we'll be using this scaled up UV. Make sure I'm edit. So they'll be using this scaled up UV, and the second, the outside mask will be using this texture. You can also avoid these extra steps by just instead of scaling the UVs inside here, you can just use you just select the texture you want to scale, and then use Ctrl T to add UV mapping and scale directly here. But then you would have to connect every other texture you want to use. You want to scale up to this UV mapping, and I think it's a lot of work for me, so I just create different UVs for different textures. So yeah, let's go back to texture paint. Now we can start painting on these objects. Let's make sure that we have this selected. If you see that when you're painting, it's just painting on the outside of the UVs, it means that you are painting on a different UV map. So make sure that you have that UV map selected. So this, go to UV editing, shading. Just make sure you have the right texture selected, and now we can go back to texture paint. Okay, still not working. So let's see this. There is this. This is what we are painting on. This is what we want to paint on. Let's see. Let's make sure that is what we have. Still painting on the wrong texture. But if we paint here, it's painting on the right texture here, I think it's painting on the right texture here, but in the viewport here, it's painting on the wrong texture, which is not what we want. Okay, it seems that the problem was a bug, and after closing and opening, everything seems to be working fine. Just make sure that you have the UVs you want to paint on selected. Otherwise, if you select a different UV, you will be having that issue. So undo, and then make sure you have that selected. Repaint everything black. Yes, increase the size. Paint everything black. So to make this simple, I will just go to front view, and then make sure that I'm in orthographic view, and then change the color to white, and paint over the front side like this, and then go to the back side, which is Control 1 or Control 3, or whatever. The opposite of the view you're viewing is control that view. So like this, maybe to the front view, but I can paint these areas here, and the bottom as well, like that. Now if you look closely, you can see there is these jagged edges there. At first I thought that maybe the problem was the resolution of the image, but it's not. But if you want to test that out, I just change it from here. So you just change it directly here, and it will update, but it will erase whatever you have done. So make sure and you can see it has already done that. So let me redo this. So after you change if you make edits here, it will reset whatever you have painted, so be aware of that. And so let's paint back, go to the other side, then go to the front side, the bottom. So the reason for those jagged edges that you see there are in here. You can see that they are there in the painting. So I'm not sure why it is working like this. Maybe if anyone knows, you can help me out. But the way to fix them is you just come into the eevee editor and start brushing over those edges. So let's reduce the size. You can just brush over those edges. Let me select a spot that is visible to the camera right now. So let's see this face here, eevee editor. Let's go back to paint and see this face here. When I paint over that, you can see how those areas should go. Those jagged faces should go. So areas like this where everything is on the outside, you can just paint them directly. So just increase the radius, reduce the radius a bit. Okay, this also has that, so you can spend as much time as you want, but I don't. This is just a tutorial, so I won't spend that much time. So then make sure you save the image. So image, save as. And now we have our mask that tells Blender the outside and the inside. We can also paint over. Okay, guess we won't. So and so this is it. Let's just load this. I'm sure I saved this, so open. Let's go to shading and make sure this is reloaded. Yeah, this is reloaded. So after you have your mask, now we just need to mix it with this image. So just to show you how it works, let me add a color mix RGB. Color mix RGB. I will use this the mask as our factor and change the first color to a different color, and the second one to a different color. So you can see that's how it's going to be. And I guess we can leave those jagged edges because even when you're painting, you will have those spots in real life. So now we just need a different texture for both of these. So we already have one for the inside. So it is this color. Just bring these back. So this here is going to be our inside, and our inside is using the pink node, so can connect this to that. Make sure it's connected to the color, not the factor. So you can see that's our inside. And for the outside, what I'm going to do, we'll just use the same texture. So here, like that, but change. I'm not sure what is going on. But I will adjust the color a bit using the RGB curve. So let's see. So we're using the same image, but okay, we can add an RGB curve here and make adjustments like that. You can see the backside has changed. Or instead of just using the RGB curve, we can just use a mix RGB node. Connect this input to that, and we can adjust the color here. So the reference was using a bluish color, so we can use that. Now we can also change the blending mode here, maybe to overlay. See, we can experiment the different blending modes. I'll try add. Let's just use overlay. No. Like that. Now this is going to be the color we use for our base color. So we just connect this to that. I'm trying to make sure that the ambient occlusion is also being mixed with this. So I'm not sure where it is. I don't know if I've added it yet. Do we have that? Okay, so I haven't added the ambient occlusion. So you can see that the color is a bit flat right now, and we want to add some dark spots between where these planks are connected, or are joined. So let's add color. Now we need to go to input ambient occlusion. This is a new node that is not available in Blender 2.7. So yes, so if we do this, you can see. So for it to work, you need to turn on ambient occlusion here, and you can see those areas. And we need to have some bit of control over it, so we can add a color ramp between here, but you can also control the amount of ambient occlusion directly from here by changing the distance, but that will affect every object you have in the scene. So let's also add convert color ramp here. Want color ramp, and adjust the contrast directly there. I need to turn back on these modifiers. So that's how it looks. So we can multiply. So just duplicate this. Multiply the ambient occlusion to this here. so that we have something that looks like that. It adds a bit of detail to the model, to the texture. Now we can connect this to the base color. Now, so this is how this looks. Now if we isolate this, you can see this is what we have. And since we have already set up everything here, we just need to apply the same material to this. I'll just name this base material. Now apply this to all the other objects. So I'll just call this. But the problem is that this has the outside part, but all the other parts don't have that part. So what we can do is just make this a unique texture. Just call this matte, and remove that outside part. So it was added by this outside mask. So can delete this, and so this is mixing what and what. Okay, so we don't need to mix it with anything. We can just get, let's see. We don't need this, we don't need this, we don't need this. We can just mix this directly like that. This is wood color. Now we can reduce the multiply, the alpha multiply. Also, I think it's too dark because we removed the RGB curve, so you can just bring that back, copy that, paste it here, and add it there. So that is the same brightness like that. And here we can bring back the multiply back up. And I think it's more exposed to the sun than the inside. I think it would be a bit brighter, so we can leave it like that. And we can use this material for every other element. So we just select this, that. Let me select this. Then Control L, link materials. And then this link materials. Link materials, link materials, okay. So also get this here, give it the same material. I'm not sure why it's too plain. Okay, so yeah, we need to give it this to be the active material, so have that. You can see how the ambient occlusion is really doing a good job to bring out that detail inside. And we just need to work on our lighting now. Give this a sun. Can turn on scene lights. And so what I did also in this version, I added that kind of mouse, and I think This one looks even better than this. The one we have just made looks better than this. I also added those kind of moss, I don't know how they call it, fungus, also this texture here, to those spots around there. If you want to do that, that is easy. You can just select, maybe let's select this material. You can use the ambient occlusion because although that moss, I don't know if it's called moss or whatever, it grows between those wood. That's where the ambient occlusion is added. So we can use the ambient occlusion to mask, to set where those things grow, green stuff grows. So we can find a texture for that. So I don't know, how did I get that? So it's here. See how it looks. Actually makes it even look better. And so that's what we want to mix in, so using the ambient occlusion. So we need to mix it with this color here. So this is our color. We want to mix it with this. So let's add a mix RGB curve. So mix RGB. So mix color, not mix RGB. And the factor is going to be our ambient occlusion. So we just drag this to here. Make sure this is set to mix. Now if we preview this, you can see the blue areas, the spots we want to have the ambient occlusion. We want to have these moss growing, so let's connect these to that. But it's growing everywhere, so we need to adjust that using let's see what option is this inside. Haven't tried out everything here. Let me see. Only local doesn't really do much, but we need to control the amount of ambient occlusion to mark where this green stuff grows. So let's preview here. The ambient occlusion is off factor. Let's add a color ramp, control the contrast. Let me increase this like that. Now if we preview this, so it depends what look you're going for, but if you want, you can make it even stronger like that. Or you can flip it so that is in the opposite direction like this. I don't know which one looks better. I think this looks better, so let's flip this. I think this looks much better than before. You can see it's even a much cleaner node than what we had here, which is more messed up. So now if you want, you can also use this map here to control the bump map to increase the bump map, to affect the bump mapping. So this is how our bump map looks. So we can copy this node here. Now to mix this, we just need a color, mix RGB, connect this color ramp down here and this one here there. Now if we preview this, this is what we have. Now we can make sure this is full to set to the factor is set to 1. Let's try subtract. I think that looks good, so we can use that as the new value. And let's preview this. I think it's a bit too much, so you can change the color here. Oh, sorry, this is supposed to go down here, not. So this should not have any value. I don't know why these nodes don't work sometimes. So we can set the value to 0.1. I think there is a lot of contrast here, so we need to see what's going on. Mute occlusion. You need this detail to be in there. So let's see what's going on. Okay, this needs to be the factor. Let me see what's going on. Forgetting what I'm supposed to do. We need this to be here. Maybe change this to is. You know what? I'll just end that part here. If you want to experiment, you can experiment on your own, but I think that is good enough. So let's do the water. So the water is quite simple. I just went to Google and searched for a water texture, and this is what I got. Water texture map, and what I got was let me see if I can find it. This one here. So just add new material, drop these. This is going to work as our displacement. So just connect the color to the displacement, and now you have our waves already. Okay, you can see the waves are a bit too big. So we can create smaller waves, duplicate this, add UV mapping, Ctrl T to bring up the mapping. Now this is what we have. So for this we can reduce the scaling. So let's see 5 by 5 by 5, and mix both of these color, mix RGB, connect these to the bottom. Change to multiply, and see the bigger waves are there, and the small waves are also there. So now preview this. And see, we also have the small waves. Now we just need to add transmission so that this is transparent. And for it to be see-through, you need to go to material settings, options, and turn on adaptive. So this will be see-through. So you can use a better background or HDR image. So go to world settings, environment, open the image. So I think I used this. Make sure in the material settings, the roughness of the water is set to 0. Let's turn on this. Now we need to change to rotate this background. So let's go to the world settings, add mapping, Ctrl T, and you can rotate the Z axis so that we are facing the water. Okay, I think I used a different image because I don't see the city background here. So let me change this. I used this. So we can rotate this again so that we're facing the sun like that. Maybe rotate it again so that it's on this side, and now the camera can be on this side like this. So if you don't want water inside the boat, you just make a cut. Okay, make a cut at the shape of the boat like this through the water. And then you can delete those faces. Now we can come in, turn on screen space reflections, turn on bloom, reduce the threshold, turn on depth of field, select the camera, go to camera settings, depth of field, and select any object on the but to control the depth of field, we can add an empty, Shift A, empty, and can move it maybe there, and we can use that as our focus object. So when we move this to the front, we can reduce the f-stops, 2, so let's make sure that depth of field is turned on. Camera settings, let's try 1.2.5. Okay, 0.5 is when you can see the depth, so you can control the depths using this. Turn on overlays, and we have our boat. Thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.